It's 9:16 on a Monday morning here at AM 1700 WRCR, Haverstraw, WRCR.com. You've got the morning show with Jeff and Will, and live on the newsline now as she joins us every Monday at this time. It's Tina Traster with the Rockland County Business Journal. Good morning, Tina. How are you?
Good morning, everybody over there and all of Rockland County. How's everybody doing?
We're good. How are you?
Good. Lots to cover today.
Excellent.
Yes. So, starting with the long-awaited Holiday Inn Express in Nanuet looks like it's in the process of being scrapped at the soon-to-be revived Thruway Plaza to be replaced by, drum roll, fill in the blank, another storage facility. Raising the question of how much stuff do we really have?
I know, that's another one.
Wow. It's quite extraordinary. I guess I don't have a confirmation, but it would seem that the developer did not have confidence that the hotel market up along that corridor, I guess, needed another hotel of a similar ilk, and decided to is in the process of deciding to switch tracks and build a storage facility. These folks are the people behind the storage facility that was built in West Nyack on Snake Hill Road, the one that's visible from the Thruway. Do you know the one I'm talking about? It's called Extra Space Storage. Anyway, so same folks, and I guess the storage facility it seems to be a winning proposition. Now, we certainly know that is not going to bring the same number of jobs or the same kind of attention as Holiday Inn Express, but that's where we are with that.
Huh. Well, I guess more options for those of you out there that need more space to put your stuff. So that's exciting. If you have that much stuff.
If there's that much stuff. I can't imagine that there's that much stuff, but these developers must crunch their numbers, and they must know there's a lot of stuff.
What kind of impact does that have on the Rockland business world as a whole with stores and the like just being replaced with more storage units and less, stores and businesses like that? I'm not, saying that this is a sign of a bigger issue, but
I think it is a sign of a bigger issue. I think you're spot on there. I think that we're seeing we talk about this every week. There seems to be. I think what happens is that developers see trends and they jump on them. So what are we seeing? We're seeing a massive proliferation of warehouses. We're seeing that are becoming bigger and bigger, and distribution centers. We're seeing a big proliferation of storage facilities. I mean, everywhere in this county. What else are we seeing? We're seeing, that means fewer jobs, and certainly fewer higher paying jobs. Mm-hmm. For example, the greatest example here would be the former Novartis site, which we spoke about, I think, last week or the week before. There's a massive plan underway to fill that entire campus with warehousing. Now, that was once a thriving pharma campus with high-paying jobs and intellectual capital. So I think nothing that happens, I say this all the time, nothing that happens in a vacuum. So yes, if we start to replace our main retail strips with things like storage facilities and warehouses, we end up with fewer jobs, we end up with fewer higher paying jobs, and we end up with sort of a visual blight because it's just not as dynamic to have retail where you've got a buzz and you've got activity. So I think that there's a consequence to that kind of development. What do you think?
I'm sure all the points you've brought up are very valid, of course. I'm curious, is there a way, you could think of offhand that might be something that could be done to stop something like this in order to preserve the jobs that we have already and possibly create more with putting in, department stores and things of that nature instead of massive storage units? Or is this just an inevitable thing we're looking forward to?
I guess it depends on, I do think there's a good answer to that question. And I think the answer to that question is that ultimately it's down to town planners, zoning board of appeal members, and really the towns themselves in the way they handle their comprehensive plans to take some of the reins in terms of how a county moves forward in its planning. The developers have in mind. Oh, the third spoke I was going to mention before when it fell out of my head was senior living. So we see a proliferation of storage facilities, warehousing, and senior living, assisted living, senior living. So developers follow the trends. They say, where are the dollars? How much can I build, and how much can I get return? Their concern, despite what they might say, is the bottom line and how they can make money with their developments. So that's the template they're using. But as a community, any community has to live with what gets developed and how it reshapes a community. So if a community becomes, off balanced or imbalanced, then yes, then the whole community suffers. Then you have people with, let's say there's less disposable income. I think that one could probably look at the shops at Nanuet to say what happened there. Why is it that Rockland County could not support that level of retail?
Well, they're still there. It's not like they've closed off entirely. They are still there.
Yeah, well, yeah, barely.
Yeah.
And heading, in a down market direction. I hate to say this, but even like Rockland Plaza, if you look at kind of the evolution right now of Rockland Plaza, at the moment, it certainly doesn't look like the thriving center. I used to think that really was one of the premium centers, certainly in the Nanuet corridor.
You're talking about the one right across the street from shops in Nanuet.
Yeah.
Which they're undergoing a bit of a facelift now too, so things must be doing okay for them.
Well, they've brought in some temporary, I would say, down market tenants for the moment. As we said last week, they're going to be losing both Petco and I think Barnes & Noble as well. So
but people are buying books and pet items off of the internet, and they're buying lots of stuff, and they're realizing all these packages that are delivered to me from Amazon, I got to find a place to put them. I wish there were a storage place for that. It makes sense.
I guess that's why the storage facility frenzy is afoot.
Yeah, right. And we're also seeing, though, growth of things like restaurants, more things like restaurants, because you can't just order. You can order food off the internet and eat it, but there comes a point where it's like, I'm sick of washing dishes. I'm sick of eating off paper plates. I'm going to go out and have someone else do that stuff for me. There's still an in-person component to eating.
Yes, except it's interesting, because even in that industry, we see a difference in the way restaurants are. The restaurant that opens today is not the restaurant that opened 30 years ago, 40 years ago. We're seeing the typical old traditional Italian restaurant. Little by little, we are saying goodbye to that that kind of restaurant.
Well, Marcello is retiring.
Yep.
That's right. And it's not just Marcello. There've been a string of that kind of restaurants in the county that have all shuttered. And not even, I don't think, pandemic related. I think it's just we're moving in a trend toward much more casual eating, faster eating. Fast casual, I think, is a phrase in that realm. And actually, that's the direction that Rockland Plaza is planning to go in. So, where is the viable retail? above and beyond food. It's getting thinner, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, but speaking of land use and trends, here's a different story that we put out last week, and there was a lot of interest in this. There's a whole dispute at the Rockland Works Cidery, Rockland Cider Works down in Orangeburg, in Orangetown on Sickletown Road, at the Van Houten Farms.
Right.
And it's a real sticky mess of a legal situation. Essentially, the Rockland Cider Works, which opened in 2019, is fighting on three fronts. They've got a lawsuit with the town of Orangetown. They've got a lawsuit against neighbors who are a bit unhappy with them, and they're also in an administrative hearing to hold on to their cidery license or their alcohol license. This is another issue, I think, that looks at the importance of comprehensive plans. Darren and Elizabeth Van Houten, who came from Pennsylvania and are part of the Houten clan, but were on the Pennsylvania farm and came over here to Rockland about 3 years ago to open up this cidery. Their position is that the cidery is that the use that they're using it for is as of right, that it fits in with the agricultural history there, and that they have a right to be doing what they're doing. The town has said that with the open bar that they have and the tables and the serving, that in fact that a variance is required. The ins and outs of this story they sort of read a bit like a soap opera, and people can go online and take a look at the story. But the bottom line is that that business is kind of fighting for its life right now as it tries to figure out whether this situation is going to be sorted out in the courts as it appears to be. Or whether there's any way to work this out with the town itself, which failed to happen in the past. So, just to make the point that here's an example of a very unique business that fits into tourism, it's an attractive business. It is a nice place. But there have been some issues with the neighbor, and there are issues with whether or not they're entitled to do what they're doing on site. But the point being is that a cidery it's probably not desirable for the people who live next door. But as a county goes, and a county that's looking for tourist attractions, a cidery is an attractive addition to the county, and it is the only one right now in this county.
It is a good question that will, like you say, have to be settled in with the courts because while I do live in the town of Orangetown. I'm not neighbors with that area. I'm familiar with it, but I don't know what it's like on maybe a Friday night after lots of people have been there overnight, and maybe when you moved in if you were next to a farm, that's one thing, but now you're all of a sudden next to what they might call a bar scene.
Yeah, except that they do close at 7. Let me just add that.
All right. That. So if you have the mess at 7:30 versus 1:30 in the morning, I don't know. I know. Again, I don't live there. I haven't really seen it up close, but I can see that there's an argument to be made for whether or not that belongs in there or not, and whatever the courts decide will be what they decide. Thank you, Tina, so much for giving us for your time, as always, on a Monday. If you want more information about Tina and her business, you just go to rcbizjournal.com. You can sign up for newsletters and all sorts of stuff over there. Thank you, Tina, for joining us, as always.
Okay, talk to you next week.
Perfect. Have a great week.
You too.